Hi guys, Mark Devo. Welcome back to this channel, Conscious Time. Welcome to this video on you are having a meltdown or you're going to have a meltdown, and this is a nice hack to how to cope with that meltdown, or to how to equip you if you are going to have a future meltdown. So if you're new to this channel, we discuss things navigating this world through the eyes of awareness, a bird's eye view, dropping judgment, dropping guilt, dropping doubt, all the negative attributes that keep that veil or illusion, separation from God, which we are always connected to. So that's the main premise. These videos are meant to uplift. We also bridge. My background is a spiritual journey from various resources. I always mention Course of Miracles, Neville Goddard, the Bible, the Law of One, etc., Rudolf Steiner. But my backdrop as well, I have a master's degree in stress and anxiety. So as I've mentioned in some of my videos, it rears its head from time to time. So I believe stress and anxiety goes hand in hand with spirituality. My biggest transitions have come through my stress, anxiety episodes in the past. And as much as sometimes they feel like a literal hell or agonizing, I'm sure some of you out there that have experienced this, acute anxiety, maybe it's even depression. I don't suffer necessarily with depression, but overwhelming emotions like that. Take it from me. I've learned from these things. They don't have to control your life, and you can actually transition, and it's almost an awakening if you pay attention to this. It's almost a spiritual awakening that is, I believe, God, life is trying to tap you into that next realm. We don't have to suffer. We don't have to live in fear. We don't have to live in those things. We are never separate from God, and we have been given the keys to the kingdom. The peace of God, which I have also experienced, which transcends all understanding, is amazing. So let's jump into this, because I'm going to unpack this a little bit further. And so as I mentioned, I've had a long history with stress and anxiety, and it rears its head from time to time. And this is going to be a quick fix, as it were, based on David R. Hawkins. So if you are feeling that overwhelming meltdown, the quickest, and let's just cut this video short. If you just want to walk away from this video with an understanding or the hack, then basically it's literally accepting it and feeling that emotion or that feeling, and feeling everything in that moment and accepting that and not resisting that, not fighting that. So if you got the gist of that, then we'll check you on the next one. Otherwise, hang around. I'm going to unpack this a little bit more. Going to the Map of Consciousness by David R. Hawkins. I'll put some links in that there. And so I hope this is going to add massive value and hope for people that are out there that do suffer with different or have suffered, that do suffer, so that you don't have to suffer through these things, or you can have a better awareness. So next time it does rear its head through the usual stress, anxiety in life that sometimes we face ourselves, which trigger those traumas, you'll know how to deal with this. And if you do find this adds value, please like, share, and subscribe. And I obviously want to add value and grow this channel to help others out there. So as I mentioned, I don't want to get into the nuances of there's so many variables, there's so many things that can trigger for lack of a better word. We all have childhood traumas, as Gabor Mate mentions. We can think about these things till the cows come home, but as David R. Hawkins says, there's too many emotions that can link with each other. It's fear, anxiety, they can actually link with each other to culminate, and there's too many thoughts to unpack and to start thinking your way out of it, especially if you are in that high anxiety or meltdown period, which I experienced 2 weeks ago. So it was a very stressful period. Reason for that is because I obviously have my traumas or various variables and attributes or nuances that cause these things, and for the most part it's because we are tapping back into the fear. We are not equipping ourselves per se with the Holy Spirit again, as I always mention, walking with the Spirit of God. We're tapping into the world again. We are overwhelmed by the fear, by overthinking, by things, work, trying to take care of your family. For instance, I was inundated with my high pressure it's almost self-inflicted, because a lot of everything is a projection, as we've discussed in many of our videos. It's a mirror, so we are actually projection makes perception. So we are actually ultimately creating these fears and illusions. But it's a good reminder to tap back into that peace of God. So never not want that to be there, because it's a good reawakening or a reminder to know that we don't have to experience these things. So I was just experiencing a very stressful week. I have targets that I need to meet, and I was just overwhelmed by the work that I was actually personally giving myself. I've got a high work ethic that I mentioned before in some of my videos, so it culminates with almost an overthinking, typing emails. Then you've got the back of the mind, you've got to reach certain targets, and it just culminates with too much, and you're actually then tapping into that fight or flight mode. So your body is obviously designed to deal with the fight or flight, the stressor. It's stress to either you're going to run from the threat, or you're going to face the threat. And because of our perceived threat in the world that we live in, and the stresses that we are allowing or creating in our lives, we are telling our body we are under stress, and therefore we go into this heightened mode. I believe that you drop into the mammalian type thinking pattern. All reason and logic goes out the window, and now your mind starts racing, etc., etc. And I felt that David R. Hawkins, which I'm going to talk about now, talks about it as an energy field, and I literally know what he talks about. When I've experienced that, my body vibrates. I can feel it vibrating in just a weird energy field, and I've tried to think my way out of that. You cannot think your way out of it. So it's almost, if you try, it becomes like this feedback loop. So the energy is creating the thoughts, and they become more active, and then you try and think your way out of it, and it creates more energetic thoughts, which feeds that fearful energy field. So that's why David R. Hawkins is actually talking about, in that moment, just to allow it, to feel that, and to accept that, because if you don't, you are resisting. And let me just track here on my computer as I do, and one of the quotes that he actually says is, we know this, what we resist persists. So whatever you are resisting, it's going to persist. So if you're resisting a negative thought, you are creating a resistance to that, and it's actually going to persist. It's not going to go away, because you are acknowledging it's there, so you're creating it. And then he says, what we accept transforms. So that's why it's key to have an awareness of non-judgment, non-guilt, and dropping doubt, and see, why am I experiencing these things? Not going too far into it in terms of thought in that moment, accepting. And once you accept that feeling, it starts transforming in almost a high, maybe an intuitive way, that you start, you're not resisting it, and it starts moving through you. And I've experienced that. So sometimes you have to just be patient. If you're on a full-blown meltdown, you actually have to be patient and just let it move through your body. So I hope I'm making a little bit of sense there and helping. Let's go into a little bit of what David R. Hawkins, this is actually taken from a couple of his books. The latest one I'm reading is Healing and Recovery, I believe it is called. Check out some of his work. Incredible work. And, obviously stress and anxiety for me is because you're creating a fearful future. So if you just want to take a pragmatic walk away, if you are going to be in a stressful environment, just know that you've got an answer in terms of accepting the feelings that come with that. Don't fight it, because it just makes it worse. The higher calling and the spiritual calling will be, tapping into our knowing that we are always connected with God, guided by the Holy Spirit, renewing our minds and walking with the Holy Spirit. Sometimes we might need to do some suffering to learn, but we don't need to suffer. We can learn by awareness and dropping that fear and dropping that doubt. So from the higher level, accepting that we walk with God, we lack for nothing, we've been given everything. If you don't want to go that high, then the next time you are faced with these things, just the stressful moments, just accept those feelings. And if this will go in terms of the map of consciousness, So this was based very loosely on Hawkins used applied kinesiology. The body becomes weaker in the presence of falsehood and stronger in the presence of truth. So this is done on thousands of tests, blind conditions, repeatable. So just research that on kinesiology, David R. Hawkins, the map of consciousness. And, he's got a whole map that basically it's categorized from 0 to 1,000, 0 being, I think it's apathy, so it's basically anything below 200. 200 starts at courage, so anything from 200 up, those are life-giving. You're moving into 500, which is love, enlightenment, all that kind of thing, which is healing to the body, and it's pro-life. And he talks about anything from 200 below or below 200, you go into the fearful states, which is kind of anti-life, but it's a negative state to be in, and it's going to debilitate you. So it's quite interesting to check that out. It gives you a nice understanding, and he talks about that as actually, energy fields. So, and like I said, I've experienced that everything is vibration and frequency and, energy, vibration, frequency. We're all resonating at different frequencies and vibrations. We're all giving off certain vibrations depending on our state of mind. And when you're in that heightened, fearful state, depending on each person is going to be different, whether it's apathetic or it's fearful or it's, just anger, you'll be vibrating at different frequencies, for lack of a better word. But there are energy fields that capture almost everything around you. So therefore, that's why your thoughts will be negative. So the worst thing to do is to try and think your way out of that. It's better to just accept it, feel it, let it move through you. And you can on a higher level, deeper level, ask for the Holy Spirit to guide you, which I did actually. I actually shouted at God and the Holy Spirit and said, I don't want to live like this, and I choose not to. And funny enough, the following day, I felt a peace that was, I tried to figure out how I could actually experience such peace. So it was quite profound. But again, I accept these times in my life. I don't enjoy it at the time, but they are good reminders. I've obviously tapped out of, I've tapped into the ego. And I've mentioned before in my videos, the ego is that false, illusory thought system, the separation from God. So we are tapping out of that abundance and love and the connection we have with God. And we are not letting go. We're trying to control things again. So these are all the nuances that cause these back of the mind stresses and that. But the short and sweet of it is, if you're experiencing these things, accept those feelings. So I'm going to just end off there. I hope this has lined up and made a lot of sense, and hopefully it's helped a lot of you. I would further say, be present with what you're doing. If you want to create some preventative measures, and this I have to remind myself all the time, is just being present with everything you're doing. So, for example, when I'm working, I'm sometimes watching the time. I've got lots of things I need to do. So now I am not just doing the task in front of me. I'm thinking of other things that I need to do. And so this is creating that energy field or overthinking. And it's got at the backdrop maybe the pressure thoughts. So now it's creating this whole energy field. So your body is now getting triggered with all these thoughts because you're jumping around from this thought and that thought to doing this, to doing that. You're signaling to your body that you're trying to work things out. You're under threat. And so now it starts creating this stressor, this fight or flight, and starts creating this negative energy field. So it's quite tangible and quite profound how this is, you can quantify this just by us talking about this and experiencing this. So by being present, and it takes practice, is just to, set out your day, set out your week, set out your month, or whatever, the day or the week, and say, this is what I'm going to do, and I want to focus time on that. There's other things you can do to manage your stresses and how your work flows, but the most important thing is to be present. And then once you have found that presence, once you have found that peace, and hopefully it's the peace of God, which is literally nothing can touch you. Once you've found that, never, ever give that up. I'm going to repeat that. When you have that peace of God, don't give that up. Don't allow the world to take it away from you, and don't allow anyone, work environment, family environment. It's easier said than done, but just and don't be anal retentive about it. But because you don't want to be like, I'm never going to give up my peace. But it's about when you find that peace, it's your God-given right, and you can see the world better, you're more effective, and you do everything better. So defend that peace, live in that peace, and you feel your energy shifting. If you feel, thoughts going away from that peace, bring yourself down and just say, what is causing this? Are you being present? And also, are you allowing any emotions to come up? So that is it. Hopefully that has made sense. Please, again, like, share, subscribe. Remember, you are perfect as you are, created by God. Sometimes we just fall and we are living in the illusion of fear, and maybe we do wrong things or error, etc., etc. But it's not the core us. The core us is perfect with God. If we're doing anything that is fearful or negative, that's not the true you, it's the ego, it's the false illusory thought system. So go out there and just know that you're perfect, and peace is a moment or breath away. So we'll check on the next one.